every human being has these remarkable sets of systems that allow us to cope with stress and with threat. And everybody's kind of heard of the fight or flight response. This is one of the most commonly described forms of adaptation and coping to a stress and threat. Let's just walk through the process that a person would experience if they were using the fight or flight response in the midst of a challenge. And so the first thing, let's pretend that the person is not under threat and they don't feel under threat and they're able to be relaxed and calm. And one of the things that we know about that is that when you feel regulated and you don't feel threatened, you're able to have access to your cortex, the top part of your brain, which is really great because that means you can think about the past, you can think about the future, you can be creative, inventive, and so forth. And this is a great human quality. But then at some point, you're going to have to leave your safe, regulated environment and go out into the world where there's a little bit more unpredictability, and that might be for the child going to school or the adult going to work. And so what happens is you're not sitting around reflecting about the future of humankind when you go to work. You're sort of focused on the present. You're active alert. You're focusing on what is your boss saying, what's my next, appointment. If you're one of the children that we work with in school, hopefully they're focusing on what's going on in the class. They're going to be monitoring the social environment of their peers. And so that uses different parts of the brain. And so what happens is, in general, as you go out into an environment where there's more stressors, there's more novelty, you shut down certain parts of your cortex and you activate other parts of your brain. And if during that time something threatening happened, the first thing that you would do, it wouldn't be, we use the term fight or flight. The first thing you wouldn't fight right away. What you would do is you would flock. And we use that term basically because human beings are social creatures. And when something unexpected or potentially threatening happens, the first thing you do is look to the people around you to see, are they interpreting this the same way? Did you hear that? What do you think that is? And you're looking for social cues about how to respond. And so we use the term flock. The interesting thing about this flocking is this social monitoring. These kids do this in classrooms. They do this with their peers, and they're continually monitoring. And this is one of the reasons they frequently develop what we call street smarts. They figure out who's weak, who's most dominant. They figure out what little word is going to make the class blow up. And this quality is, even though in certain circumstances it's a gift, over time it can actually be something that can get in the way of these kids' functioning and development. If you're in one of these events and there is impending threat, and you've done your flock and you've looked around and it looks like people are equally threatened, the next thing that happens, sort of mental state, is freeze. And this is basically where your brain is trying to figure out, what should I do? Should I fight? Should I flee? Should I use some other adaptive response? I don't really know what to do. And this freezing stage can be very brief or it can be very long. And I think everybody's been in a situation where there was some sort of confrontation or they witnessed some sort of experience, and for the moment they just didn't know what to do. They were frozen. An example might be being in the grocery store and seeing a parent get angry and frustrated with their child and hit the child. And part of you wants to intervene and part of you wants to go, oh, what should I do? And you're frozen. And this happens all the time. If the event continues to be threatening and you move through that frozen stage, and your brain says, listen, I've got to take care of myself. You move to the flight stage. You don't fight first. You try to get away. And then if you can't get away, then you fight. Flock, freeze, flight, fight. And this continuum is something that is involving different parts of the brain. So when you're in the flight stage, different parts of your brain are functioning than when you're in the flock stage. And in general, what happens is the more threatened you feel, the lower in the brain is the center of control. So by the time you're in the fight stage, literally the lowest parts of your brain are in control of your functioning. And if you remember, the lowest parts of your brain are very categorical, very primitive, they can't tell time, and the result is you can't reason with somebody who's in that flight or fight stage. They literally have their cortex shut down.